It's 5 o'clock in Pirate Country, and it's time to get pumped up with the P-Man. Hit the door and hit the road. 94.3 The Game is going to get you home, and the P-Man's not holding back.
Yes! Yes! Pirates win! Pirates win!
Bring on the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
Holy mackerel! Oh, my goodness!
The flagship station of the ECU Pirates.
Okay, hello again, everybody, and welcome in. Great to have you with us here as we are live and in living color. Here it is, the one and only Patrick Johnson Show on this Election Day 2024.
Do it live!
Yeah.
Do it live!
We're doing it live today, all the way, stem to stern. Couple good things I want to announce, and I'll get to it here in just a second. It is Election Day, though, and if you have not voted, you have until 7 o'clock here in, 7:30, isn't it, Pilk? 7:30 in the great state of North Carolina. You have till 7:30. And if you're in line by 7:30, you get to vote. Do not leave the line if you get in the line, folks. I know there's lines out there today. Do not leave. There is nothing you will ever do as an American patriot that many of us will do. You know, outside, I realize there are those that have served and are serving. That's a different level of patriotism. But for the rank and file, for the average American out there, there's nothing more patriotic you will do than vote. And you should vote. I have my opinions of how you should vote. And I have voted the way I've voted. But I'm steadfast in this. Just go vote, no matter who you're voting for. I hope you make a wise decision, but just go vote. You got to participate in the process. I talked to somebody today, and he said that his kids didn't have school today. And he called ahead, and he took the kids down, and they were able to get to the polling place this morning. And one of the people there gave the kids a tour of, kind of the little, like a little tour of the situation there of the county election offices. I just thought that was, and this is in the eastern part of the state, I just thought that was the coolest thing. That, the dad took the kids to kind of let them experience voting. That was really great. And he said the people at the polling place were quite gracious. So with that said, we're going to have Dr. Peter Francia. We've had him on before, political science professor at East Carolina. They have released yesterday a poll in North Carolina on the races. So we'll ask him about that, but we'll also kind of just get Peter's analysis of this race. We'll keep it as down the middle and stick to it being as non-political as possible. But, I mean, part of it will be Peter's, analysis of what could happen tonight. Philip the Ref Pilkington is here. Pilk, a lot of great response to our show yesterday with Cy Seymour on it, and I'm sorry we had a little TV malfunction there courtside. There was a little bit of a, what you call in the business, technical difficulty. First telecast of the year in basketball, so you would expect there to be a little bit of a technical difficulty. And as part of that technical difficulty, Pilk, we had to kind of slide off. Did everything go fine after I slid off? I was going to stay as much as I could there until the top, if not beyond the top of the hour. I hope I didn't put you in a spot, my friend.
No, everything went good. Coach Harrell was great, as he always is, as someone you've got to interview over the years. And then we talked a little basketball. Did it kind of try to inform the Pirates fans on what we were getting into with NC Wesleyan, especially their coach John Thompson, and what a legend he is. Not something that you hear about as much with him coming from a D3 school. But speaking of TV, Patrick, I do have one question. The picture of you where they were showing your Final Four picks. Had you just seen a ghost? You looked like shocked. Like the side picture that they showed of him, like he was smiling, and you looked like someone had jumped out and scared you.
I was frightened.
Okay.
I think what I think it was? I think when they took that picture, I think at the time, I can't be sure. I think at the time that picture was taken, Pilk, I was listening to one of the singers at Kamala Harris's rally. I think John Bon Jovi might have been trying to sing I'm kidding. Danny Rice, I'm kidding. I'm sticking to sports, Danny. Love Danny Rice. Great American, great patriot, great pirate. And Danny and I don't probably agree. Actually, we probably agree more politically than Danny realizes. But, all right. So, yeah, they just, and sometimes, you know how I am, Pilk. I take a picture. I just want to be silly. I don't want to be.
You do.
I don't want to.
You like to have fun with it.
I don't want to project that there's happiness going on. So, Peter Francia is coming up. We also are going to talk to Jim Szoke. There was a trade.
There was.
Mingo traded from the Panthers.
Yeah.
To the Bears. Is that who? Or Dallas? To Dallas.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, he
All
can't
right,
catch.
So the
it does
NFL
stink.
trade deadline is come and go.
Yeah, it does stink because you drafted him a couple of years ago, and you're already getting a worse pick than what you spent on him. But I think they had admitted they messed up when they drafted Xavier Legette this year because they're so much the same style receiver. They seem to like Legette. They like this young kid, Coker, that they got with a late day 3 pick.
Would you have kept Mingo?
Oh, I can't stand Mingo. Bye.
Okay.
Best of luck.
Right.
I hope that he gets a
It
career
seems
revitalized.
like they're trying. It seems like they're trying to get rid of people maybe who were not fitting in the locker room.
Yeah.
Is that a fair thing to say?
I would say so, especially with the Deontay Johnson trade.
Right.
I think we can get a little more insight on the answer to that question in our next segment.
Right. With
Jim
Szoke coming up in a few minutes. Yeah. All right.
I'll punt.
All right. And then we have Pirate football. Now, a couple of announcements, some house cleaning here. This year, I'm going to be calling. We do a handful of women's basketball games on 94.3 The Game, and I have been asked by the folks with the ECU Sports Network to call those, and so I'm going to do that. That includes tomorrow. So the show will be 45 minutes tomorrow with Doug Martin. I'll be out at Minges Coliseum tomorrow at 5:45. We will begin the pregame for the women's basketball game, and then I'll have the radio call of that. Pilk will be in the studio babysitting me like he always does and making sure I don't screw up too much. If it were not for Pilk, I'd be in major trouble. So Pilk is going to be part of the show tomorrow and part of that for the network. And then on Thursday, we're going to be on from 3 until 5, Philip R., with Pirate Game Day Countdown for Anson, Belton, Buckle, and Orthopedics East. They bring us our pregame show. We're going to be on from 3 to 5 that afternoon. And then from 5 to 7, Logan Zone, 7 to 8, the network pregame, and then, of course, the game itself with Florida Atlantic here on 94.3 The Game. So that is the layout for the next couple of days. We'll have Reaction Monday with Joey Football, and looking forward to that. That'll be Friday. So that's the rundown the next couple of days. No PJ show, but Pilk and I will have pregame coverage from 3 until 5 on Thursday. Pilk, anything else that I have left out or we need to add before we jump into a couple cuts here?
Obviously, we're going to talk about the basketball team winning, but I don't know if you're saving it for the final segment, but the West Virginia game in East Carolina on September the 19th.
Well, I was getting ready to go into our Pirate report. So as I reported earlier today, West Virginia, was it 300 or 600,000? 300,000, wasn't it?
3.
So for $300,000, West Virginia has bought their way out of the 2026 football game with ECU. So that leaves a gaping hole because right now you've got an FCS opponent scheduled in that year if you're the Pirates, and that FCS opponent is Central. So you got App State at home and at Old Dominion. Could you move Wake Forest? Maybe. Could you move Georgia State? I don't think so, right, Pilk? That's not possible.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So now you think, okay, well, that's 2 years away. Well, yeah, it's the world of college football scheduling. It's very difficult, and that's when all this, I guess, other next kind of round of alignment stuff. Is it after 26 that the next round of tectonic shifts could be happening? I think so. Or it's not before 26, is it?
It's not, because that would already have to be in the works, but who knows?
So, I mean,
we didn't see the whole Texas-Oklahoma thing just started a domino,
right,
and that happened early.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and so I think it's I think it would be post-26 season.
Yeah.
All that would go down. Don't quote me on that. But, I mean, it's around then. That's kind of the target date that everybody is circling as the next big change date in what could happen in college sports. Now, UConn, as we play amateur scheduler here, UConn is here. UConn is a possibility. There are 2 dates, including the date that West Virginia was scheduled on, that are open for UConn.
No.
Well, 3 dates if you count week 0.
Yeah, no.
I don't think
that's one of those dates.
Oh, no, you're right.
Yeah.
It was a September date.
They got the Tar
got
Heels
a date
that day.
in the middle. Yeah, UConn's got an open date right now in week 0 in the middle of October.
Yep.
And near the end of the season and near the end of the season in November.
Yeah.
Now, you could go ahead if you were to convince UConn to do something with you. And again, we're just fantasy booking here, but I mean, if you were to convince UConn to do something with you, you would have to maneuver it on one of those 3 dates that we just talked about. And that would give you a little, because they've only got 11 games scheduled right now that season. That would give the league enough time to work around your scheduling. You might be, that means you'd be playing a conference game early in the month of September, but
did it a few years ago in Navy when we played at BYU. So,
yeah. So,
now here's
what else? Who are the other teams that you say are possibilities? Kennesaw State.
Kennesaw State has an open date that date. Wake, as you mentioned, is open that date, so you can move up one of those games. But here's an interesting one. If Helton gets the job at ECU, the Western Kentucky coach, people have been talking about him. Western Kentucky is open that week.
There's your negotiating chip.
Yeah.
If you're going to get him instead of the buyout, you do that. Well, yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. That is a possibility. I don't know, Pilk. I mean, that your options are limited. I don't like the idea of moving something up but I mean, if it buys you time, I guess that's what you got to do.
I mean, if you move something up from 2027, 2028. That's 4 years from now. So say we take that Wake 2028 game, because Wake's in the same boat we're in. That's 2 years out. Yeah, it's on the road.
Yeah,
but
that's on the road.
It is, but right now we already have 6 home games. So West Virginia would have been a 7th because you've already got your FCS game and app. So at least you're not going 7 road games.
And at least you're not adding a cost by going to Wake Forest that would be exorbitant.
Yeah, you're not flying probably. You were going to
go
anyways.
So that gives you a little flexibility there.
Yeah.
That gives you a little flexibility there. And you're going to have you also have an opening right now in 27. As is. So do you do a home and home with Kennesaw?
Yeah, maybe.
I would hope not.
Maybe a home and home
but
with
Western
Kentucky.
Give you,
I mean, Western Kentucky wins 8 games.
Western Kentucky's
year.
got good facilities. We've talked to Doug about this before, Doug Martin, and he says they've got really good facilities. Well, there's be plenty of time to talk about that. It's obviously sort of the news of the day. Mike Swartz and the Pirates won last night, 65 points and a half, the most points scored in a single half of basketball at ECU ever. Thought the Pirates looked really, really sharp, particularly in the first half on the defensive end. I think you saw a little bit of what they want to do as far as getting out and running. Wesley and Pilk, you kind of mentioned it. John Thompson, a great gentleman, has been around forever, has done a fabulous job there. They're for that level athletic. So they it wasn't like they had bad athletes out there. They were overmatched. So, I mean, the fact that they got on a little bit of a roll shouldn't be overly shocking. You gave up a lot more points than I think you wanted late in that game. But still, it wasn't like you were playing a bunch of slugs. They're picked to win their conference for what that's worth. So, the fact that they represented pretty well after the game had kind of been decided doesn't really, give me probably some of the concern it gave some fans. But it was a dynamite first half. This is Mike Swartz after the game. This is what he had to say. Cut 1.
Like how we played in the first half, like how we jumped out, and for the most part, what we did in that first half, and not nearly as ecstatic about how we maybe stayed consistently inconsistent in the second half to not play our best. But we have a lot of areas we can continue to grow, and that's what you expect this time of year.
Let's hear more from Mike Schwartz on the defensive pressure and what went well early, but maybe not so well late.
The defensive pressure, continuing to execute what we wanted to execute in terms of offensively, how we wanted to play. It's very obvious. You watch, we were trying to get the ball inside early in the game, and the guys did that. But the defensive pressure is really what we wanted to do to establish that to start the game, and I thought we did that. And then by the same token, it was also a game, we knew this team was a very good driving team. This is a team, they were one of the teams in terms of volume, not a very high three-point shooting team in terms of attempts. Forget percentages of makes. They made some good shots tonight. So we wanted to protect the paint and pressure at the same time, and that's a heck of a challenge. And I thought the first 12, 13 minutes of the game, we did a really good job of that, not only on-ball pressure, but being in the gaps and protecting the paint and forcing it. And then so what happens as the game goes, it's all of a sudden a 30 or 35-point game, and pressure goes off the opponent. They start putting their head down and going, driving the basketball, and our defense, instead of tightening, got spread out. And it gets spread out, and all of a sudden it's more one-on-one. And that's the challenge, as CJ talked about, trying to get that cohesion to understand you continue to play the game, not the score. And I think at times we did a better job than others tonight.
All right, last thing from Coach Schwartz here in Cut 5, what he wants to see from improvement from last night's opener to Coastal Carolina, which is at 4 o'clock on Saturday. Coastal, by the way, beat Western Michigan last night 60-56, so they're also 1-0. Coach Schwartz.
You know, until I get a chance to break this film down, Steve, it's hard to give that answer. I know this right off the top of my head. The first thing I would say is the ability to not get spread out on defense, because if you're going to pressure, you can't get spread out. I mean, and that's, you know, just, again, from the very top, really quickly being in here, just thinking about it, looking at this stat sheet, the feel I got in the second half, I thought we got spread out. Again, I know Coastal Carolina is a really good team. I know Coach Gray is a really good coach. I don't know what happened with their game tonight. I just know this from no matter what we did tonight, there was going to be a lot of areas to improve, but that's the first thing that comes to my mind. And, you know, playing the score versus playing the game, of course, you know, I hope we're in games where we have this kind of lead. That'd be a good thing for ECU if we're playing with these kind of leads, like CJ said. But more importantly, just the execution of our defense and to not get spread out if we are going to be a team that's aggressive on the ball.
All right. Speaking of CJ Walker with 21 points, a career high. R.J. Felton was spectacular with 22, but he's R.J. Felton. A couple of always anonymous text line texts. Did last night serve as any indication as how ECU might be able to compete in the post moving forward? No. Well, I think Walker offensively, you know, he catches the ball and he faces up. He's not trying to back anybody in. He's definitive and decisive with his moves. He's a guy that's finished plays in the Big 12. So I think he's got offensively, I think he'll be fine. I didn't know about the LeBeau thing, and we're a little short on time, so I didn't want to get that cut. But I think he's a little bit of an X-factor guy, undersized, but an X-factor. I think you've got to get something out of Malanga. We weren't told that Callum Richard had anything wrong with him, but he didn't play last night, and that was a little surprising to me. I do like the young freshman, the kid from Oklahoma.
Kaysen.
I like
Reed Kaysen.
Reed Kaysen. I like him, and you know, so I think that it is, you know, kind of an interesting thing there. And then, but I think they've got to have rim protectors. I think that's the big thing. All right, let's hit a break here, get reset a little bit, and we'll come back with Szoke here on the Patrick Johnson Show.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast. Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern Living's best small town.
Sawyer's Fun Park in Winterville is now open. With over 40,000 square feet of family fun, daily money-saving deals, and a full-service restaurant, Sawyer's Fun Park is guaranteed to have something the whole family will love. Test your ninja skills on our 2-story obstacle course or head over to one of our 5 rock walls and race your friends to the top. And when you've worked up an appetite in our laser tag arena or our one-of-a-kind ropes course, grab a table over at the restaurant and try our world-famous Southern Monster Fries. Reserve your spot today at SawyersFunPark.com and come join in on the fun.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human. About creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
Riding shotgun with you on the drive home. It's showtime. This is the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
All right. We've got Jim Szoke joining us here. Szoke is going to be with us on the air on Thursday with the pregame at 7 o'clock for the network, and it'll be Florida Atlantic coming to town. We'll talk a little bit about that, but we bring Jim Szoke in right now. So I didn't realize this, Szoke, that that was Bryce Young's first ever victory formation snap in the NFL, because the other games he'd won were field goals at the end.
Right. I mean, literally, we never led last year in regulation. We the 2 games the Panthers won last year were on walk-off field goals at the end of the game. So he did. And, of course, the one we won earlier this year was Andy Dalton, that quarterback, against the Raiders.
Well, there you go. We know he can do that, right?
I'm glad he got one. Yeah, it was good for him to see that. And it was interesting heading into that game. There was a lot of chatter like, this could be like a make or break performance for Bryce, especially before the trade deadline as far as his evaluation goes, because Andy Dalton will be healthy now with the sprained thumb. So the decision will be like back to the bench, or is he going to continue on? We don't know who the quarterback's going to be this week. But if he didn't play well, that would certainly have sealed it in the other direction. Sure. So, again, he was not spectacular, but his stats also didn't belie what he did. He actually played better than his stats showed because of dropped touchdown pass, Leggett having the ball ripped out of his arms on a good throw made by him. Yeah. So actually, I thought he played better than the numbers showed in that game.
Yeah, that Leggett play didn't really help him as far as that interception goes. And that I thought that was going to be the thing that did Carolina in at the time it happened, but the Panthers were able to answer back. So when I look at what I was giving Pilk a little bit of grief. The play before the Chuba play was the pass interference penalty. And I said that was the best play on that drive. But actually, Bryce wasn't the prettiest of throws, but he made a throw that, looked pretty good to set it up prior to the play that led ultimately to Hubbard running it in. So you got to give him credit there. He made the throw on that play. Yeah, he made a great throw on that play.
Hey, they led a game-winning drive, and I've always said this too. I prefer some rules in college. I prefer some in the pros. I think the assumption of the catch being made wherever interference happens is too punitive.
Right.
So I prefer the 15-yard penalty because of that. I just don't like that spot rule. If you throw it 50 yards in the air, that you assume the catch. So that to me is one of those things where I wish they had not in that moment, but for the college game rule to be used in the NFL. Right. I think that's more fair. It's like roughing the quarterback. It's a personal foul. I mean, that's kind of like the most punitive fouls, right? So I think 15 yards is plenty. It gives the DB the option to not give up a big play or a touchdown. Say, all right, I'm going to give you 15 yards.
Yeah. Jim Szoke with us here. So the Panthers trade Jonathan Mingo to the Cowboys. Pilk noted they did not get a draft pick that was comparable to where they drafted Mingo, but they did get a draft pick. When
they got a draft pick much higher than anyone thought, though.
Well, yeah. For what that, there we go, Jim, with the half full approach to this here today.
I think if you look at a fourth-round pick for a guy with 12 catches, just looking at that part of it, you're right. He didn't live up to second-round expectations, but to get a fourth-round pick for a guy who's got 12 catches halfway through the season is pretty stunning.
Yeah. Well, point is, should we read anything into this like we did the Johnson thing? That there was a little more to this. Maybe he wasn't a fit off the field, or is it just at this point, at this juncture in things, he just didn't fit what you were trying to do because you had Leggett?
No, he was not fitting on the field. I think Jonathan Mingo's a good guy. So I think, you're right. Deontay Johnson was a little bit of a distraction, whereas that was not the case with Jonathan Mingo. Just the production, and sometimes production is because you don't fit, like you said, here. And we've certainly seen quarterbacks that didn't fit here who are playing pretty well around the league and other places. So could be just the fit. Dallas liked him a lot coming out of the draft last year, but we've also seen, you mentioned Leggett. He's already got 4 touchdown receptions as a first-round pick rookie. Jalen Coker has been, honestly, the great steal of a gem of being an undrafted rookie free agent playing well. Adam Thielen is set to come back. So I think, at this point, it just wasn't working. It's kind of like Terrace Marshall all over again. You spent a pretty high draft pick on a guy that just didn't pan out for where you took him in the draft.
So Jim Szoke, Panthers Radio Network and the ECU Sports Network is with us here. Last night, really great game between the Bucs and the Chiefs hold on and remain undefeated in overtime, and here they are. They are doing it in kind of interesting ways, Jim. I mean, they're finding ways to win. They've been involved in a lot of close games. And then what did that tell us about Tampa last night?
Yeah, that's their third loss in a row, so they've been struggling a little bit. I mean, you take the Chiefs, the best team in the NFL, to overtime. You can't feel too bad overall as far as the game that you play, because it's a tough one, and at that you're on the road in Kansas City playing it there too. So shows that obviously Tampa Bay still probably better than their record shows at 4-5, and Baker was solid in the game, but keep in mind too that Tampa's really dinged up, losing their top 2 receivers with Godwin out, and of course Mike Evans out. So it's been a lot of Cade Otton at tight end. He's been really stepping up and doing a good job. But they're not the same team without having Evans in particular, and without having Chris Godwin the rest of the way. That's going to hurt them. So I thought they might do more at the trade deadline to try to address that. But they're thin at wide receiver right now.
Any other trades today? Pilk, what was the one from New Orleans to Washington?
Marshawn Lattimore.
Yeah, Lattimore, who I guess didn't play last week. Anything to that stands out to you, Mr. Szoke?
That's probably the biggest one. Washington's really playing well. Now they're 7-2, and their issues were on defense, not offense so much. So adding Lattimore to the secondary kind of resolves one of their bigger issues, is that when they were getting beat or teams were putting up yards on them, it was over the top. I think Lattimore was not healthy last week. You're right, when he played, he did not play against the Panthers this past week. I think he helps them out a lot. I think the Lions getting Zadarius Smith from the Browns, veteran pass rusher with Hutchinson out for the year, Aiden Hutchinson with his injury. And, the Steelers are also playing better ball, so they make a trade to get a receiver, Mike Williams, the veteran from the Jets. And obviously you got knocked down the totem pole with the trade for Devontae Adams a couple of weeks ago. So Pittsburgh was active. So that was kind of it. It wasn't as much as maybe people thought NFL trade deadline may be today. Maybe the GMs were all out voting today or awaiting the college football playoff rankings later today. So there wasn't as much activity as we thought there would be.
Giants, it's sort of interesting. They've had some moments where they've looked okay offensively, but and it seems like they've been in prime time a lot, and they just don't win games in prime time. So what's the story on the Giants coming in to this, and what's the story at quarterback right now with the Giants?
Well, good old Daniel Jones from Duke and from Charlotte Latin High School. He played pretty good last week, actually. He was 20 out of 26, 2 touchdowns, and he ran for a third one. So he's always been a solid running quarterback, and then you got the big contracts. He had a pretty good passing year, but just, not big numbers in the pass game still. And before he got hurt, Malik Neighbors, they were just, feeding him their first-round pick. And then he got injured with a concussion, and he missed 3 games. And he's come back, and he's had just kind of pedestrian numbers the last couple of weeks. So I'd be interested to see what kind of an uptick they do with him, because he's such a dynamic player and obviously their best weapon. And as you saw, Saquon Barkley with Philadelphia still lighting it up with that move he made in their win last week. And then so they got Tyron Tracy's their 5th-round pick as their running back out of Purdue. So it's not the most dynamic offense with the exception of Neighbors. But if I'm Daniel Jones and if I'm Brian Daboll for that matter, I'm getting the ball in his hands because that's probably their best chance to have explosive plays.
Pirates will have Florida Atlantic. Just first, your reaction to what you saw from East Carolina in homecoming. Obviously, the third quarter went their way, maybe more points than you wanted to give up, but that seemed to right itself in the second half as well. So there's some building blocks out of that and a chance for the Pirates to go on a little run here.
Yeah, and again, first of all, hats off on a short week and doing something that Blake Harrell did as interim head coach was, I thought, amazing. And John David Baker and him being on the sidelines as we talked to them during the week was going to be, I thought, the right move. And to be there and talk to these guys face to face, run it. I mean, they're both in a different situation as far as that, with JD being down on the field. And not only with Blake being down there, but being the interim head coach and having to have some other things going on and help up in the booth. So I thought it was great. Temple is, not the toughest team to play, but you still have to take care of business. As Blake said last week, they're probably looking at us saying the same thing. I'm sure FAU's saying the same thing. They think this is a winnable game, and ECU wants to get this one in primetime on a Thursday. I know we're favored to win this one, but things don't always play out the way you want, so you got to keep your head focused and not get, enjoy the win, but don't feel like you've solved the world problems as far as the players go. I know the coaches won't. And just continue the involvement of what's going on at quarterback, too. With Caden Hauser, some of those were wide open, so those are breakdowns in the Temple secondary. So you probably expect more resistance with FAU this week, but love seeing just the way Hauser's running that offense right now. And the defense has dialed it up, and as you've seen, they're throwing different guys out there, different packages.
Yeah.
Some names we didn't see earlier in the year, a lot of true freshmen. Obviously, Jamarlee Riddle's turned into an overnight sensation as far as his production goes, and he has stepped up in a big way, making starts the past 2 weeks. So just guys stepping up. A lot of true freshmen. You look at Yannick Smith, and you look at KJ Merrill, and you look at Marley and some of the guys, Jamarlee Riddle. These guys are really stepping up, playing great ball right now.
And I do want to say this. I really like what we saw, too, offensively. You mentioned a lot of guys playing on defense, but it seemed like more guys were in the mix offensively against Temple.
Much needed from running back, London Montgomery coming in, and because especially with the injury to Javius Bond, they just have missed that kind of quick twitch kind of a running back. Rajay, when he's got an opening in that line and they get one for him, he can hit the hole pretty quick and go. Marlon Gunn's more of a sledgehammer, but you need that guy that can get out on the edge. Yeah, I like the development of what Montgomery's brought. And again, this is a redshirt freshman, so I just that was cool, and I think that's going to see probably more and more of that getting in there. Yannick Smith, we've seen that from spring ball, just how talented he is as far as getting the ball into his hands more often, as far as another freshman that's out there. And they've had to survive the injury situation at tight end. So Savage has been around for a while, but Cesario Riles, even J.C. Connor getting more action in there. Those guys doing a good job there. So hopefully, again, you need to have guys catch the ball. You talked about it the last time I was on. While things were, pretty good offensively the last game, you had a lot of drops, and then Chase Sewell, if he can keep doing what he's doing, Winston Wright can keep doing what he's doing, Anthony Smith. I mean, you've got weapons there, and you just need to catch the ball. And I think with Caton, he's putting the ball in a better place for them to be productive.
Jim, thank you very much. Safe travels to Greenville, then to Germany, then to Tulsa.
Nobody's done it before.
Herb Street has nothing on you. Nothing.
No. And he's doing that, executive travel or what he's doing.
Right.
I'm driving.
NetJets.
I'm not driving to Germany, though. I'm going to drive to Greenville. I'm not driving to Germany.
Oh, good. I hear that drive to Germany is a little tough. All right. Thank you, Jim. Great to talk to you. Look forward to seeing you and hearing from you on Thursday night.
You got it. See you.
All right, there he goes, Jim Szoke. All right, Pilk, give us an update on what's going on, and then Dr. Peter Francia from ECU Polling. He's the Director of Survey Research for East Carolina. He will kind of break down what's going on with the election tonight. And right now, here is Pilk before we talk to Dr. Peter Francia back on the Patrick Johnson Show. Pilk?
Thank you, P-Man. Starting in Pirate Athletics, the basketball team got off to a hot start last night as they defeated NC Wesleyan 97-70, and newcomer C.J. Walker on his first game in Minges.
It was great. I love the energy in there. I was really excited to play against some new guys with my team. We've been playing against each other for a long time, so just seeing the new crowd, seeing the new environment, just it was real good. It was real nice.
Basketball team will be back in action on Saturday when they host Coastal Carolina at 4 o'clock. Network coverage starts right here on 94.3 The Game at 3:30. The football team will not take on West Virginia on September 19th, 2026. The Mountaineers have bought out of that deal. There were a handful of deals done today at the NFL trade deadline, some of which include the Panthers sending Jonathan Mingo to the Cowboys for a fourth-round pick, the Commanders receiving four-time Pro Bowl cornerback Marshawn Lattimore for the Saints. Washington also got a fifth-round pick, and they dealt a third and a fourth in that deal. The Steelers picked up two players as they got wide receiver Mike Williams from the Jets for a fifth-rounder and edge rusher Preston Smith from the Packers for a seventh-round pick. The Canes will host the Flyers tonight as they try and extend their six-game win streak. That'll do it for 94.3 The Game Sports Flash Update and Pirate Report. Dr. Peter Francia on the other side to talk about the election.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arrgh!
Looking for a great deal on a new Nissan?
At Greenville Nissan, we've got a great selection of new Nissans for under $30,000.
The stylish Nissan Sentra, offering top-notch fuel economy. The Nissan Altima, known for its comfort and technology.
The Nissan Kicks, the perfect combination with its compact design and performance. The Nissan Versa, delivering incredible value without compromising on features. And don't forget the Nissan Rogue, an award winner for 10 years in a row. Drive it home just for $22 down and $349 a month.
Visit GreenvilleNissan.com today.
Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt & Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt & Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's cut in color. And let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
Streaming to the world at 943thegame.com. This is the Patrick Johnson Show. Now in all his glory, here's the P-Man.
Patrick Johnson Show has learned that it is Election Day. And people will be voting in North Carolina till 7:30 tonight. Dr. Peter Francia, ECU political science professor and the director for the Center of Survey Research at ECU. They just put out an ECU poll. He joins us here. All right, what's wrong with the Panthers, Peter? Let's start there.
I love to talk
Who's your
sport.
team? Who's your team?
I'm a
in
Giants
football?
fan.
Oh, so they're playing the Panthers this week? All right. Here's the quandary with the Giants. I saw Daniel Jones play in the state championship for private school ball. This was when he was committed to the Ivy. And I thought, man, this is what a player this kid is at quarterback. This was in high school now. He's in the championship game. His team lost, but he was amazing. Well, like a month or two later, he commits to Duke. And he was doing okay at Duke, but then all of a sudden, his junior year, it's like, oh, this guy's going to be a pro. And he leaves after Cutcliffe, and he get drafted by the Giants. So there was a game this year on a Thursday night. He was fairly productive, but he just hasn't gotten him over the hump. So there you go. That's my analysis.
Jones, just very quickly, as a Giants fan, it's you see these flashes in Daniel Jones that get you really excited. That Minnesota playoff game from 2 years ago, you couldn't have played a better football game than he did. But then, Jones reverts to these mediocre performances, and of course he's been injured a lot. And I think that's, the injuries have really, I think, hurt his development. And I would suspect that he won't be back next year as the Giants quarterback.
Do you like the idea of playing these games in Europe, these NFL games? I mean, as a fan, it's kind of interesting because there's football Sunday morning. So that, if you got a full day Sunday and you're not going to be able to watch a lot of games, you could kind of scratch that itch when they're over. But, I mean, what's your feel on that, just as a fan and somebody who studies things internationally?
Well, I would say this. I think as a fan, for me, I don't want to be watching football that early in the morning. I've got things to do, and I hate missing any games. So I prefer the 1 o'clock start. But I understand what the NFL is trying to do. They're trying to build their brand and to get fans to follow football all around the world. And I think, Patrick, if you and I owned an NFL franchise, we would want to build the game internationally as well. So I think from a business standpoint, I get it. And I love the game of football. So if fans around the world can learn to appreciate it, that's a good thing.
I think I'd be a lot like Charlie Finley if I were an owner of a sports team. I'd be a little. I'd have crazy ideas. I think that's what I would be doing.
Yeah, do all your listeners remember him? He was the Oakland A's eccentric owner. Yeah, it was great. He did some really innovative things.
Yes, they're now just going to be known as the Athletics or the A's. All right, we have the election now. East Carolina polling got into business a few years ago. We've had Dr. Francia on to talk about things outside of the political realm, but we have an election tonight. In that poll, which I've talked to my pollster buddies about the ECU survey, Dr. Francia, and they say you do superb work. So I thought that was a tremendous compliment coming from some people that I respect who do this as well for a living, and is a testament to what you do there. So you had Donald Trump 50-48 over Kamala Harris in the poll that was released yesterday. In the gubernatorial race, which is the second biggest race, it was Josh Stein 55-40% over Mark Robinson. So that is very different, quite obviously. Why are we seeing such a difference in North Carolina in the ECU survey supporting the Republican for president, but the Democrat overwhelmingly for governor.
Yeah, well, we've seen ticket splitting in the past. In the last election 4 years ago, we saw Roy Cooper win in North Carolina while Donald Trump carried the state in the race for president. So ticket splitting is something that there is a history of. If you wanted to go back further, you could look at an election like 2004 when George W. Bush easily carried North Carolina and Mike Easley, the Democrat, easily won in the race for governor. So these ticket split patterns in North Carolina are not completely uncommon. We have seen them before, and even as recently as the last election. So, but this one is a big one, no doubt about it. When you have a Democrat up 15 for governor and you have the Republican ahead by 2. But of course, Mark Robinson's had to deal with scandal for the better part of the last month, and that we saw a big drop in his support after that CNN report was released. Perhaps he pulls the numbers up a little bit more from our poll, but he's well outside the margin of error, and it would be a small miracle if he won tonight. Maybe that's even being too conservative. It would be a maybe more than a small miracle. It would be a miracle.
Would better chance Daniel Jones to be the quarterback for the No, I'm Dr. Peter Francia is with us, ECU political science professor and director of survey of research. Why the early voting numbers that we saw this year, not only in North Carolina but nationally? Well, explain that to us.
Well, I think one of the takeaways from the early voting is that we're seeing a big uptick among Republicans. 4 years ago, a lot of Republican voters were suspicious about early voting, but the Republican parties, made a concerted effort to convince Republican voters to get out and vote early. And the fruits of that effort are being shown with what we're seeing in some of the early vote totals. Early voting is, for a lot of people more convenient, and people have busy schedules often on a Tuesday. So not incredibly surprising to see people taking advantage of that convenience. But there are some old-fashioned types. I voted today because I'm just sort of in the habit of doing it that way. And I know there are people like that.
So nationally, people are obviously talking about the presidential race. North Carolina is one of the states that is considered it will decide this race. Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, and then Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. So just based on what you're seeing today, and there's still voting going on. I mean, polls are still open in Michigan till 8 o'clock, 7:30 in North Carolina. Who has some cause to be optimistic here at 5:45 on Election Day?
I could make a case for either candidate right now, but I'm going to start with making the case for what's good for Trump. The national polls right now have it even, and if you look back to 4 years ago, the national polls had Joe Biden well ahead, an average of 7 points. So for Trump to be even, that's a 7-point shift in the national polls from 4 years ago. But let's be more conservative. Let's look at just the actual vote in 2020. Joe Biden won the popular vote by 4 percentage points over Trump. So let's say, if the polls had gotten it right, they should have been at 4. Well, if the polls are right in 2024 and it's even, then Trump is running 4 points better based on his popular vote deficit from 4 years ago. And that means that, so if the wind is blowing 4 points more in Trump's direction, and you were to apply 4 points to all the battleground states, then he's going to sweep them. And, it's a resounding victory for Trump. But let's be even more conservative. Let's say that Donald Trump the national mood has only swung a single point in his direction. Mm-hmm. And if it's done that, then Donald Trump is still going to win the election. He would carry Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. He would carry Georgia. He would carry Arizona. And of course, adding a point to his total, he'd still carry North Carolina. Instead of winning by 1 like he did the last time, he would win by 2. So if you look at it, through that lens, if Donald Trump is in fact running just a little bit better than he did 4 years ago, then he's going to win the presidency.
So with Harris, she has to win the 3 states, the Rust Belt, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. I mean, there's no two
That's
ways
the blue
around
wall,
that.
right? The blue
Yeah.
wall. If she holds that, she's going to win tonight.
Okay. So there's no scenario where she could win those
There
and
are,
still
but
lose.
I mean, then we'd
Okay.
have to have something weird happen, like there'd have to be some weird surprise that we,
Right.
otherwise
Like
wouldn't anticipate.
Virginia
Yeah,
or
right.
New Jersey
something that
or
would, you
New
would
Hampshire.
go, what in the world? Minnesota, there's a poll that has it really tight, but it's inconceivable, right, that Minnesota would flip to Trump, but then Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania would go to Harris. So, I mean, yeah, there would have to be something that would be such a head scratcher that, I would be left trying to figure it out probably for the rest of my political science career. Right.
All right, Dr. Peter Francia, ECU political science professor and director of the Center of Survey Research at ECU. They've gotten a lot of national attention for their polling work, especially what they released yesterday that they did exclusively on our sister stations, 103.7 and 96.3. So based on what you've seen today, how is the turnout compared to, I mean, it's still been pretty strong early turnout, or excuse me, election day turnout, even though Republicans voted en masse early voting. I mean, is there still a pretty strong showing on election day for one side over the other, at least what you've seen,
Well,
again,
I think we
right where we are right now?
Sorry to interrupt. I think we know that turnout's definitely going to be high again. But here's the conflicting wisdom on this. The long-held conventional wisdom is that high turnout is favorable to the Democratic Party, and that a high turnout election would bode, of course, then well for Harris tonight. But we've seen high turnout elections in 2016 and in 2020. And in 2016, in a high turnout election, Donald Trump won the presidency. Donald Trump does better than any Republican in recent history of bringing out voters on the Republican side that are not regular voters. And that sort of twisted the conventional wisdom, turned it upside down when it comes to Trump. So it's not clear whether a high turnout election anymore is good for Democrats. In the midterm elections, which are always much lower, Democrats did better than expected 2 years ago. And in a big turnout election, if those voters are Trump voters who polls sometimes miss, and Trump has done an incredible job in the past of mobilizing, then it could bode well for him. So it's, I want to come on here and give you the easy answers and an answer that's clear. But Donald Trump has done enough things over the years to muddy the waters that I just can't do that. I have to give you sort of the two perspectives on this. And when I really want to give you, the sort of firm answer that I know you and all the listeners want. But, Trump has been sort of an unconventional candidate from the beginning. He's defied a lot of the conventional wisdom. And so it's always difficult to try and make sense of any election that involves Donald Trump. I'm doing the best that I can, but he never makes it easy.
Hey, Peter, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Quite a lot enjoyed tonight, and keep up the great work.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Enjoy. It's election night should be celebrated by all Americans.
Absolutely. Peter Francia, thanks to him for being with us here tonight. Also, thanks to Jim Szoke. We'll be back tomorrow with Doug Martin, and then ECU women's basketball tomorrow night. See you in the morning on Talk of the Town. That'll be a lot of fun. And then back here at 5 for the Patrick